It's time for the final ultimate battle between the game console, the R35S. Then we're having the game console, the R36S. And then the final one is going to be the game console, is also called the XU10. So let's go. If you're searching a very cool multi-emulator device with the budget, I think this is absolutely a great battle you should watch. Because there are 3 different devices out there that have a lot of, let's say, similarities, but when you look up close to them, they are slightly different. I already did full reviews and some side-by-side comparisons, but the reason I want to dedicate this video simply because if you're searching for a cheap device under, let's say, $70, maybe $80, depending where you find it, what kind of model you're getting, due of the SD card in the inside or the storage capacity. These things can be very cheap, sometimes in sales, but there are quite some differences between the 3 of them. Nevertheless, let's do a quick overview. But is basically my favorite one after this video, and let me know in the comments which kind of a device did you already buy, because some of you did already buy one of these, or maybe all of them. In the first part of this video, I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison with all 3 of them. And I mean, when it comes to the body, and I'm just going to talk about also what kind of, let's say, differences we're having with the display and the emulation performance. And I'm just going to deep dive into this if you're thinking getting one of these devices. Take consideration, it's low budget, so it will not have, like, say, perfect emulation with some of the platforms. I already discussed these things in my main reviews, but I must say that I find all 3 of them kind of cool, where I think like all of them will have the positive and the negative sides, and that is always what we're going to have with everything in life, in my opinion. But again, where I have a strong preference for the XU10, there are some things, of for example the R36S, I have noticed there are very, there are like certain parts are so much better than, let's say, all the other devices. But we can only see this when we're doing this side-by-side comparison. But let's take a close look at the 3 different devices. How comfortable are they? So first of all, the 35 model is completely different when it comes to the shell. Not only the button placement and the joysticks, it's also going to be way smaller. Here you can see comparison with the 36, and here we're having comparison with the XU10. And of course, all 3 shells are completely different due of the shape and the size. And I must say, when it comes to the 35, when holding it in my hands, it's not, let's say, uncomfortable, no, not at all, but take consideration if you have smaller hands, this device is highly possible way more comfortable for you. Then of course the 36, the placements of the buttons are different, like the D-pad, and I'm a D-pad guy, so I'm very glad with the 36 when it came out. But yeah, when it comes to the analog sticks, if you want to play that more often than a D-pad, maybe the 35 is going to be more comfortable to play than the 36. And of course the XU10. One of the things is completely different, is just the way how the shell looks. You can see it have round shapes, and the way how it is absolutely, in my opinion, more comfortable than all the other ones. So one of the noticeable differences is the edge over here, where you can put your middle fingers and give this thing some more comfort to holding it in your hand for a long time period of playing this. And so basically when it comes to the shell itself, for me, I love the 36, but also the XU10. For me, the XU10 is absolutely the clear winner for my size hands. But again, it can be different. Let me know in the comments what is the device you wanted to have or already having, and what do you think and how comfortable they are. The button placement is completely different with the 35. Going to the 36, here we're having completely different, let's say, in layout, and the ABXY buttons are also looking and feeling differently. Nevertheless, when you're looking at the XU10, I was very glad and very positive about this particular handheld. But let's do a quick overview of all of the buttons and the placements of everything else. The R35 and the R36 have a lot of similarities. First of all, when it comes to the placements of the buttons. Think about the volume, the reset, the on-off switch, and etc. So that's the first thing we're going to chit-chat about. And yeah, what are the differences between these 2? Looking at the connections and all the possibilities, they are almost the same to each other. So first of all, both will have like the same kind of port at the bottom part, including a headphone jack. So at the left side, it's kind of funny, both of them will have the same configuration of buttons, having the reset, the power on, and the second SD card. On top there is actually nothing. And also at the right side we're having volume control, The only difference is I've noticed when it comes to the R35 over here, it has been slightly, let's say, in depth in the shell itself, so it's very difficult to press, where with the R36S it works way better and it's more easy to click. Take consideration, both have quite a resistance, so it's not you're going to be clicking this accidentally, so that is something you need to take consideration too. The XU10 is absolutely a completely different story when it comes to the body, the shell and everything else. Yep, and that is just the thing I really find very cool and interesting about this particular device. But the configuration of, let's say, the button placements is completely different when you're looking at the R36. This is just your traditional handheld with, let's say, different buttons in the middle and having select start and EFM button. But looking around it, you can just see that we're having volume control over here. At the left, we're having over here the reset button, the on and off switch, and at the bottom, we're having the connections. But with the XU10, there are no buttons or on the same position. They completely swapped it around. So at the side, we're having not the on and off button. That's the even interesting part. It's the G button, or most of the time the menu button. The LED is at the right. We're having the headphone jack at the right. Okay, both of the, let's say, SD cards are left and right, the options. And here we're having the volume control at the left with a very nice, good resistant button. But the strange thing is that when you're looking at, let's say, the on and off, it's placed at the back. That is something you don't see every day. So this is what you're going to have when it comes to, let's say, the button placement and everything else. So for me, absolutely, XU10 is still one of my favorites, actually, for how comfortable it is and how it actually plays when it comes to the D-pad and everything else. But it is so interesting to see that there are so many differences between, let's say, not the way how it holds, but also the way how the buttons feel and etc. So first of all, when you're just touching the D-pad, already there's some overview of them, but this thing has a lot of resistance. For the people who love this, and of course the combination of the way how it's placed. But then we're having, of course, the R36. This thing feels, let's say, less of an, let's say, resistance, and it has a very nice travel. And then of course the XU10, that's my personal favorite, where it doesn't look the most comfortable, it's absolutely the most greatest there. And also when it comes to the joysticks, you feel just let's say the R35 and the 36 have the same resistance, where the XU10 has more of a wiggle stick. You know, that's a quick comparison, the quick differences you're just noticing now when actually like having all of them. So there's a huge difference, especially when it comes to the touch itself and how it feels. The resistance is completely different of both of the devices. So let's give you an up close. When you're feeling the R36, it feels so nice. It has a very short travel, but it also feels very nice when it comes to playing some certain games. When we're having over here, the other one has more resistance, and again, it's more like a personal preference. I don't really like this thing. I personally prefer the R36, not only the placement of the freaking D-pad, but also the way how it feels and plays. The R36S is absolutely a winner for me. So where I did test a lot of different kind of games on the main review, I was very pleased with this D-pad, the way how it feels, the travel and everything else. But to my surprise, the XU10 is so much more comfortable. The 4 separate buttons will look not that really comfortable, but already in the main review I told you is that when you're looking at the form factor, the travel and the resistance, everything is so much more comfortable. So this is what you're going to have when it comes to, let's say, the button placement and everything else. So for me, absolutely, XU10 is still one of my favorites, actually, for how comfortable it is and how it actually plays when it comes to the D-pad and everything else. But it is so interesting to see that there are so many differences between, let's say, not the way how it holds, but also the way how the buttons feel and etc. So first of all, when you're just touching the D-pad, already there's some overview of them, but this thing has a lot of resistance. For the people who love this, and of course the combination of the way how it's placed. But then we're having, of course, the R36. This thing feels, let's say, less of an, let's say, resistance, and it has a very nice travel. And then of course the XU10, that's my personal favorite, where it doesn't look the most comfortable, it's absolutely the most greatest there. And also when it comes to the joysticks, you feel just let's say the R35 and the 36 have the same resistance, where the XU10 has more of a wiggle stick. You know, that's a quick comparison, the quick differences you're just noticing now when actually like having all of them. In general, I am not a huge fan of these back button configurations, but yeah, there is no other way solution for this when you're needing more buttons. So one of the interesting things is just the placement and the feel. The R35 and R36, they have like this very annoying, very huge resistance clicky buttons, where the XU10 has a micro switch, but the resistance is so much different. But also what is interesting, the R35 has, let's say, the middle buttons are risen up a little bit more, so you can reach them fairly easy in that point. Where with the R36, we don't have this short generation going on, and with the XU10, they absolutely improved it. Putting all three in one video, here we can finally see the differences. The R35 and the R36 are running on Arc OS. So Arc OS is, let's say, more customizable. So when you're actually going to get into the menu itself, here we can change out all kinds of stuff. Where we're having this particular version called the XU10 doesn't have this. This is more, let's say, easier to use, and you are limited. For example, when you're just pressing the side button for the menu, we don't have all the fancy options. And that is one of those key things that they changed out, in my opinion. If you're going to boot up a game, for example, then we're having the option even to do a quick load, quick save. It's all made so much easier to use, but if you want to tinker, you're limited with the OS that comes with it. In the next part, I just wanted to do a side-by-side comparison with all of the three displays to showcase which one is the better looking one. And from this point, you can just see that already the 35 and 36 are very similar to each other, where the XU10 is a completely different color, more of a greenish color tint to it. And in my opinion, I don't know, it's going to be a bad thing. This is more of the case. If you're looking all of three of them next to each other, you will notice, but actually getting this thing alone, you will not notice it, in my opinion, at all. Up close, here you can just actually see that the 35 and the 36 are having some differences. Where I find the 35 looking slightly better, in my opinion. Here you can just see the green is more vibrant. So even that the 36 is absolutely looking great compared with XU10. That even the 35 model over here, you can see how the details of the castle in the background and how everything looks so much better on the 35. Giving you an up close with the 36 at the left and the XU10 at the right. Here we see absolutely like a huge difference between the displays over here. This is laying on a different angle, but that doesn't matter. It's just going to give us the same result. So let's also compare the 35 over here against the XU10. So when it comes to the displays, the XU10 is just looking so much different. Not in a super bad way, but still in a way that I'm thinking, why does this 35 look so good? But what I do find when it comes to the R35 at the left and the R36 at the right, it is that actually when you're just seeing the XU4 in real life and just playing on it, I already mentioned it, you don't really notice it. And oops, there we go again. But the thing is that when you're looking at this middle screen, it is so much more comfortable to look at. And then, don't know, it's going to be, that isn't a thing I'm having, but I found it even because of the sharpness of both displays are so much better. The XU10 is more relaxing to look at. But let's do a quick overview of, let's say, the quality of the audio itself, because I'm really curious about that too. The XU10 is absolutely not a winner when it comes to the audio, simply because it doesn't go that loud. All of them the front-facing speakers, but doesn't really matter. Where these things are getting louder and sound a little bit more crisp and clear, it's not something I would hate about the XU10. I did notice my previous video people were asking about comparisons when it comes to, let's say, the performance. So let's do that first. Let's begin with the R35 and let's start playing. But okay, so when you're looking at these three devices, they all have the positive and the negative sides. So let's do a quick overview what I love and hate about these things. So first of all, the R35S has an absolutely amazing sound, great display, but when it comes to the shell itself, it's not comfortable for my hands. And not even to talk about the D-pad and analog stick. I must say I love it, the analog stick placement, because that's the way I actually play with this particular thing. The R36, it's bigger, it's more comfortable, and oh man, this shell looks so awesome. The display looks amazing, not the best of the three, let's say the number 2, but still when you're looking at the audio, that sounds way better than, let's say, the XU10. But this thing is absolutely great, where I am completely still in love with the XU10, simply because none of the display, I think this has not the, let's say, the best display with the three of them, but the way it actually works, just the D-pad, how it plays. I noticed it again when playing some Crash Bandicoot. It was so much fun and I was really enjoying myself. Navigation is so smoothly and I just really enjoyed myself the most on the XU10. So this is for me the personal winner. Let me know in the comments which one did you buy or which one do you want to buy and what is your favorite. It would be great if you subscribe, hit the little bell, and we will see you in the next video.